Hi, it's Chris McClary from the National Dream Center on a beautiful Sunday afternoon, June 10th, 2018. This video is more for the new people who are trying to figure out the Co-Mind report and the DreamBot and the various materials there at the National Dream Center on the website. And I wanted to take today's DreamBot run and Co-Mind report and talk about it. And I'm going to link it down below so you can follow along with me. And I'm going to just describe a little bit about what Co-Mind is, what DreamBot is, and how to read a DreamBot run. Now, we're going to do that today, and it's going to be based on the run that was conducted this morning, June 10th, 2018. Okay, so what the DreamBot is a bot that was really created, or a software program that was created by George Ure and his sidekick Grady, and they are over at nostracotus.com and peoplenomics.com and urbansurvival.com. Anyway, they gifted me this Nostracotus program to be able to go on the web and see what the masses are talking about. And I converted it basically into a bot that would look at just dreams. I've had numerous amounts of radio shows in the past talking about this. So you can go back and look up, you can Google my interviews. We talk extensively about looking at the future in these linguistics coming from the DreamBot. Basically, the DreamBot goes around the web and looks at dreams, and it brings back the words that were used in the dreams, and it combines and it calculates how many times the word printer was used. It just so happens that printer was the top word it wasn't the most frequent word in today's dreams, but based on historical data on the word printer, it's surging the highest compared to all the other words in there. So if we look at June 10th, the way I have this algorithm set up is not necessarily what is the most popular word. What I found over time was that the most common words like who and man and woman and house and these typical dream words would always be at the top 5. And so if I did just a sheer frequent the most common words, then you'd have basically the same run every day, and it wouldn't really be changing. So what I wanted to do was to compare each word to its own history, and those that are surging more than its historical average or its historical peaks should be noteworthy. That's what that going-in game plan argument for this algorithm. And historically, it's been eye-watering, really. If you look at some of these words in the past that were top of the list, in other words, the words that were surging the most compared to its own historical data, seem to point to future trends. And so the hypothesis is that in the collective mindscape, and we call that the collective unconscious, is because dreams are very much unconscious emotions, unconscious thoughts, and whatnot, is that with each DreamBot result is what you see, the picture that you see each day under the DreamBot runs, and it tells you what is surging each day compared to each word's own history. Okay. But we noticed in the past that the ones that were really at the top, that were really surging high, really came true within what came true. Well, look, for example, in the past, in past situations, like spaceship one day would be at the very top, but with a surge score, and we can talk about what a surge score is later, but that's that yellow column that you see in the picture is based off the algorithm and based on word's own history. In this case, spaceship was the top word, and lo and behold, within a few hours. And the search score, so you see today's printer search score is only 65, which is pretty good, but like spaceship would be like, it was like 1,000, so it was way up there. And so there was a red alert established. Back then we had the time to be doing red alerts and these sorts of things. Within a few hours, the spaceship that was going to go, the unmanned spaceship that was going to go to the International Space Station and restock it with food and materials, it blew up. Now, then we noticed that the Virgin Airlines, within, I think it was the next day or 2 days later, the Virgin Airlines was testing its own commercial spaceship. They called it a spaceship, and it blew up at 41,000 feet, and one of the pilots died, and the other one got out in time to survive. But two huge headlines with the word spaceship, and our dreamers dreamed about it. Our collective unconscious dreamed about it prior to that happening. Two big headlines. So we do look at that search score. It's very, very important for us. If we see something above about 100, that signifies that there's probably either a heavy amount of headlines that have already come out about something. So we call that day residue. In dreams, there is a lot of day residue. If you see a horror flick, there's a good chance that you're going to see some scary material in your dreams. If you have a very emotional experience at the ice cream shop with your loved one or your kids or something, then there's a really good chance that you'll see some sort of metaphor for either happiness or ice cream or something along those lines. We call that day residue, where your reality shows up in your dreams later. Well, if we can't rule that out, so if we see something above 100, say if printer was, in today's bot run, printer was the top word. So we would go look at the news and see if printer is anywhere in the news. If it was, especially if it was if the search score was above 100, and if there was already a big headline associated with printer, then we'd probably have our answer, and it's just day residue, and so it's probably not predicting much of anything. But if there's a search score of 1,000 and there's no headlines anywhere about that particular word or group of words, then it's probably going to be coming true in the future within a couple days. We've noticed that it tends to come true within 2 days to about 6 weeks is the kind of the sweet spot. But the bigger the word, probably going to be the more quicker, just in general. It doesn't have to be, but in general. Okay, so let's look at this DreamBot run itself, and that's the picture that you see. If you click on the link below and scroll on that page, scroll down towards the middle of the page, you'll see a picture with a white column, a yellow column, and a blue column. That's the DreamBot run. And you have the first white column is today's number of times that printer shows up in the dreams versus its own history. So you can see it's above its norm by 177.8%. And the surge score is just relative. It's based on but each word has to run through the same algorithm, so it's not subjective based on the word. Every word has the same mathematical equation to get to the surge score, and that surge score stayed the same for approximately 3 to 4 years. So we have a lot of historical data to look at through there. And then obviously the blue line is the actual dream words, with the highest surge scores are going to be at the top, and the lowest surge scores are going to be towards the bottom. Now, let's first look at the green box, number 1. This is what I noticed first, which really stood out. It was pretty easy, anonymous. Some of these linguistics, I'll call that green box a linguistics. In other words, you can just take those words and read them like a sentence. So anonymous, note, web, broken, internet. It looks like, well, web and internet are pretty much the same thing. Anonymous is kind of a popular group that goes in and tries to hack in, and they have supposedly positive intentions. And I don't know, to me it looks like linguistics is saying that something like the anonymous group, the group anonymous, may have a note for something, and it might actually break the internet or break the web. If I had to guess on a headline, that's kind of what I'd say, but we're not doing so much of these predictive headlines anymore. We're more concerned about just for timing. In the future, we might have some dream forecasters who have copious amounts of time on their hands to actually analyze some of these linguistics. That's really the only reason we're not doing headlines anymore, is just for time. Right now, we're looking mainly at the material for the CoMind report. But before I start talk about that, let's fully digest this DreamBot run a little bit more. And what I also look for in these DreamBot runs are trends and memes. So if you notice that the red arrows on there is indication of ups and downs. So we have sliding depth. Those are indicate down. You don't typically slide up, but I guess you suppose you could. But sliding generally is down, I think. Depth is down. Mountain could be either way. There's an upside and a downside. Elevator could be up or down. And then at the bottom of the run is up, the word up. So there's a lot of ups and downs in this. And as a psychotherapist and a counselor, I am looking at the group mind and the emotions thereof. Because if you go into a crowded room, for example, maybe it's a big business meeting, or maybe it's a conference, or whatever it is, it really has an influence on you. All those people together, grouped together, has an influence on how you behave and how you feel and what you think. You start being very self-conscious and self-aware and say, oh my gosh, I'm the only one wearing jeans. Then I run out to change or whatever if no one in there is drinking coffee and you're the only one drinking coffee, I don't know. So some people have more of an effect because of this need to feel included, and other people who are more antisocial tend to not be as much influenced by the collective consciousness, the collective group. So it's easy to see how a group, and social psychologists have been talking about this for, 100 years or so. And the biggest dictators have actually used the information from these social psychologists, in other words, to sway opinions. They make you think that the majority is thinking this way, and then lo and behold, everyone wants to be included, and so they start to think that way. And so the hypothesis with the CoMind report, the CoMind being collective mind, and we're looking at the influences. So mind stands for mass, influence, net, distortion. So we have all these distortions around. So you have the planet Earth has its own electrical magnetic field. So does Jupiter. So do these other planets. And as those in the space of things, as those move around, those electromagnetic fields change. And when those electromagnetic fields change, our thoughts and emotions change, and our behaviors change as a result of it. Does it determine our behavior? No, but it's an influence. It's harder for most people to do work in the middle of the night when the sun's down. For example, there's a lot of forces, big planetary forces that have an effect. But does it make it impossible to do work at night? No, absolutely not. Some people do prefer to work at night. So it's not determining your behavior, but it's an influence. And then the other influences are mass propaganda, or maybe advertising. Maybe big advertisements are swaying the way you think. What you think is true about sickness, for example. Most people think that there is no choice. It's all genetic. Well, that's not really true, but it's ingrained in our minds to think it's true, and therefore it affects the way that we go about trying to prevent disease from happening in ourselves. In other words, those who think it's just all genetic, they don't have any opinion towards, well, maybe I should eat healthier, or maybe I should get the right amount of sleep, or have the right kind of relationships, etc. So it really does affect what we do and don't do, but it doesn't determine outright how we do that. Okay? And the thought behind the DreamBot now is that it's giving us a clue as to what the collective unconscious is doing, and thereby influencing us. So in my co-mind report, which we talked about here a little bit prior to this, and in past videos, but the co-mind report includes all the different forces. That's the idea. I mean, obviously it doesn't include everything right now. Right now it's pretty much just the planetary forces and the alignments of these electromagnetic fields in the planets. And then we're looking at the collective unconscious, and we're doing that via the DreamBot run. So I'm combining all these different forces, and we can't tell yet whether or not astrological forces are more potent or more stronger than, say, the collective unconscious. Let's say that someone wants to program the collective mind, or they do that by programming each individual mind. And once we hit a mass crescendo of people who, I don't know, like a certain color, then that color becomes the biggest influence in the group, that kind of influences the rest of us to like that color, for example. I don't know why someone would program a certain color, but you can see the application in commerce. You know, I want to buy this car, and they make you think that if you get this car, that you're going to be sexy to the opposite sex or the same sex, depending on what you identify as. And so it sways opinion to try to get money. Other people try to get power. And we can kind of see that happening here. But what I have noticed is that in the astrological alignment does seem to match pretty, like on average, and we've been doing this for a couple weeks now. We've been looking at the comparison between the DreamBot runs and the astrology and the astrological influences. And they do seem to go in parallel. But there are, and I've talked about the differences in each of these reports in the past couple weeks, when there is a difference between what's in the dreams and astrology, then we don't know which one is the stronger of the two influences, but we just treat them as equals and we talk about them. If you're going to be, I think the best case is just being aware of the highest influences in your life. And if you're aware of those influences, then you can either choose to be a part of, maybe it's a good influence, maybe it's a bad influence for you. Only you can determine that. But being aware of it, now you can harness it, or you can prepare yourself to avoid it. So that's what's happening here, is that if there's a positive influence for you, then hopefully you can recognize it. So for example, we've seen lately where some people have the gift of being able to communicate just based on the influence that's in the collective unconscious, and the astrological influences all kind of pointed towards communication. It's the right time to communicate. And other times, like today, was all about just kind of regurgitating, and you can see it's regurgitating the emotions from earlier in the week, and you can see that in this DreamBot run extensively. And it wasn't like I had to look for it; it was obviously there. The downward motion and the upward, we're talking about the ups and downs in this one DreamBot run. So that's why those red arrows were there, and that's what was indicated in the astrology as well. The Sun in Gemini, and the I think the Moon in Taurus was more for foundation. but we had the there I can't remember at this point. There were some alignments that were just kind of an emotional exhaustion from the week, and this is our time to um, if you don't do the right thing, then you might just feel the ups and downs. But that's why I recommended to get out in nature or go do something very physical like a exercise or get out and see a tour so that you can get away from the emotional garbage that happened throughout the week. And when you, just for example, when you get out into the physical world and you experience the physical world, it grounds you and it takes you away from. So if you're only living the emotional ups and downs right now of the past week, you're not really here right now. You're feeling these ups and downs, but you're not present with it. When you're present in this physical world right now, then your mind isn't wandering off, and you're able to experience through your five senses what's happening right now. That's why some people have problem with dissociation. So maybe they've been traumatized earlier in life with horrific trauma, and whenever some little stressor comes along or a big stressor, they vacate. Some people vacate their physical body because they can't. It's kind of like a trigger of emotional pain, and they don't want to be there to experience that pain. So what they'll do is dissociate from the body, and some people actually leave the physical body in fear that they're going to have to feel that pain. And so what some counselors do is to help them ground, is to force them or develop a habit of touching something. And so somebody might touch a table or another human being or a doorknob, for example. Okay, and that helps them get away from the leaving in the mind or mental escaping, and it brings them back to the present. In the present is a certain amount of peace and harmony, but you can't be off in your mind and your thoughts. Thoughts and thinking can be a form of escape. And you're wishing you're not here right now, but you're doing this unconsciously. It's just kind of a coping skill. So you vacate the present moment in order to think of or feel something more pleasant, but meanwhile it's bringing about more anxiety, which is your up and downs, what we talked about today. And to get away from that is to open up your five senses, so feeling, smelling, tasting, seeing, and hearing. There's more senses beyond the physical, but we want to exacerbate those five senses in order to ground yourself and bring you back into the present moment. And by doing that, you're actually going to have less ups and downs in your life. So that's what we were doing there earlier today. And let me know if you felt that ups and downs or the kind of the garbage, the day residue from the past week. And if you're still working through that, then let me know. And that's the importance of these co-mind reports, is to know what that influence is so that you can head it off with certain behavioral components. If you notice today on that link that I had at the very top, today's action. And that is a very short snippet. Even if you just come in to the website, the daily DreamBot report, even if you just come in just to read that daily action, could be some help. I also develop a picture that includes the biggest influence or influences. Sometimes there's multiple influences, and your recommended action item in that picture. And that's becoming a little bit more popular there on Instagram, but we also post that on Facebook as well. I also want to advertise the Snapchat. We're going to put some specials out and maybe start some projects with the Snapchat. So be sure you look up Nat Dream Center, not national, the NAT, is short for national, but the name is too long. So Nat Dream Center for Snapchat, and then look us up on Facebook, your favorite social media, and let us know if there's another social media platform that you'd rather have. But right now it's mainly Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and then we'll be starting some new projects on National Dream Center once we have enough people. Did I say Nat Dream Center on Snapchat? Okay, with that, hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea for what the DreamBot is and what the reports look like and what they mean, and then also how the co-mind report fits into this, and how the collective mindscape can have an effect on you and what to do about it. Okay, I'm a practicing psychotherapist in Lowell, Arkansas. So if you're anywhere in Arkansas and you'd like to get some services for figuring out anxiety or mood swings or dissociation, stress or schizophrenia, if you're hearing things and you don't, maybe don't think that you're crazy, we have this thing called spiritual emergence, where people are experiencing some phenomenon that other people don't experience. And I'm versed in that. I have a master's degree in transpersonal studies. Would love to try to sort that out for you and help you turn that maybe into a positive, or remove the baggage that's associated with these sorts of phenomenon. Okay. All right. Links are below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And in order to see new videos as they come in, we're hopefully going to be doing these more frequently. And be sure to find your social media, whether it be Instagram or on National Dream Center on Instagram, National Dream Center on Facebook, and then obviously the website itself. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.